The probability that we have the universe that we have today with life permitting circumstances is much higher. It's 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 123. Which 10 to the power of 10. The probability of our universe coming into existence in a way where it permits life like us to exist, right? Is 10. You're familiar with the Penrose formula, right? That number is so big that if you were to take every single proton, neutron, electron in the universe to represent a zero for that number, you would exhaust the protons, electrons, neutrons in the universe, but you wouldn't be able to write the number, right? So we're talking about monkey writing to be or not to be. In 28 billion years, our universe is only 14 billion years old, and you're expecting evolution to have created all these fantastic things in this short amount of time? No, and that's just for you to understand.
A lot of stuff in a lot of space, with a lot of opportunity for possibilities. At the end of the day, because the universe is so big and it's been going on for so long, 14 billion years is an inconceivable amount of time. It's small compared to 28 billion, but it's not small in general. But yeah, I forgot what my point was now. I completely missed track.
Say that again, sorry?
Completely gone off what I was saying now.
You were saying that there's lots of possibilities.
What were you saying before?
I was talking about, the thing is this, right? For the universe to be the way that it is, there could only have been one chance, because there was only one Big Bang. There was only one moment, right?
Yeah.
And that chance was one chance in 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 123. So you have one chance to get everything just right, way back then.
We don't know how many Big Bangs there have been, or how many there are going on at the moment, or anything like that, if they are going on at all. So you never know. If there's an infinite number of Big Bangs, because people think there's an infinite number of parallel universes, in one of these universes, there's bound to be life, because if there's an infinite number, then anything will happen. Everything can and will happen.
Right. Okay, so when you talk about a multiverse theory, you have to understand, firstly, there is actually no scientific evidence for this whatsoever.
No, it's a theory.
It's absolutely. But here's the thing. Let's assume that it's correct. There would still have to be that first universe that came into existence by means of which all these other universes.
Because humans, well, I say human, we can't comprehend there not being a beginning or an end. There has to be a beginning and an end for us to be able to comprehend it. Otherwise, we can't make sense of it.
Not for us to comprehend it.
It just hasn't been going on forever. There isn't, like, time doesn't exist.
Okay, so let me explain it to you, right? If you say that there had to have been because then you go into the absurdity of the infinite regress, yeah? If I say that there was a universe that created this universe, and that universe created this universe, and that created this universe, and that created this universe, it would go on for infinity. Let me give you an example. Say I'm a soldier in the army, and you play Call of Duty? Okay. So say I've got a sniper, and I've got the sniper scope right on his head, and I'm about to shoot him. But before I shoot him, I have to ask the commander behind me. So I turn back and I say, "Sir, can I shoot him?" And imagine he says, "No, I have to ask the one behind me." And then he says, "I have to ask the one behind me." If this went on for infinity, would I ever get to pull the trigger? No, because the request to pull the trigger would be infinitely in the past. Now let's apply this to the universe. If there was a universe that created this universe, and a universe that created this universe, a universe that created this universe, this would go on for infinity.
But the multiverse theory doesn't come from universes creating universes. It comes from universes being created everywhere, all the time. And there's infinite number of them.
Right, so there's
creating each other, they're just there, and they always will be, and they always have been.
The multiverse theory is that there's universes coming out of other universes. So a universe,
parallel universes, that they're not coming out of each other. They live next to each other. They're like there's so many theories. There's theories where all the universes are flat and they kind of sit next to each other like that.
So which one are you saying that the universe always existed and that's it?
That's my personal theory, yeah.
But we know this universe.
The Big Bang happened, but I mean, there's always been something.
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying. So if the Big Bang happened, it came. If this universe exists, this universe didn't always exist. We know that, right? We have astrophysical evidence to show that the universe didn't always exist. So this universe has to have come from somewhere.
That's what we think. But why does stuff have to come from somewhere? That's just
it can't come from nothing.
Why not?
Okay, but what comes from nothing?
The universe.
No, but wait, you look. Understand?
I know, it's
no.
inconceivable.
It's not that it's inconceivable. Okay, it's inconceivable for a reason, because it's impossible. Look. If I tell you that there's a whole lot of nothingness, there is absolutely nothing in here. At least when you say that it comes from another universe, there's a cause. But you're saying that something is totally uncaused, right?
Yeah.
That's worse than believing in magic. Do you believe in magic?
No, I don't believe in magic.
Because at least when the magician pulls the rabbit out of the hat, there's a hat in which he pulls the rabbit out of.
But I don't know. But what caused God then? If that's what caused God then?
Okay, so that's the thing, right? If we go through this theory of they're having to, something has to cause something, something has to cause something. If I say who created the God, who created the God, who created the God, who created the universe, this would go on for infinity. And this universe wouldn't have come into existence because infinity has no beginning, no ending, no middle. So we will not actually get to the present time in which the universe was created. This is why Richard Dawkins in his book The God Delusion in chapter 4, he affirms to the fact that there has to have been a first cause. But what he says is, he says the first cause was the universe. But we say, hold up, how can, that's what, the universe had to have also have, exactly, the universe also has to have a cause. I mean, look, Richard Dawkins, his only evidence is this, yeah? Are you familiar with him?
Yeah.
Okay, he says that the only reason I deny that there is a intelligent creator is because you have to now explain the creator, right? And the explanation is too complex. Now, our response to Richard Dawkins is that you don't need a best explanation. You don't need an explanation for the best explanation, because otherwise science would destroy itself. Because the whole point of science is to provide an explanation. But that means that he has to apply this to himself. Now he has to go into his laboratory, and when he explains something, and say, no, I can't, before I publish this, I got to find an explanation for this explanation, and find an explanation of this explanation. If this went on for infinity, and you're infinitely providing explanations, what do you have at the end of it? No explanation. And the whole point of science is to do what? Provide an explanation.
I get what you mean, yeah. But I don't know.
So that's why I'm saying that's why when we have a creator, we have a cause of the universe. If you say there's a million universes, fine. Our scholars, for example, Ibn Taymiyyah, he mentioned that there is a possibility of a multiverse 500-600 years ago, because the Quran mentions that in the first line of the Quran, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, all praise and thanks is to the Master of all the worlds. So they're like, from this week, we have no problem. There could have been other universes, and they actually came up with these theories 500-600 years ago. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So I got no problem, but ultimately you still have to have one cause that kicked it all off.
So what kicked God off? That's what I mean.
But that's
God is God outside of that. He doesn't.
That's what I'm saying. Because if he wasn't, if God was cause, we wouldn't be cause. Because if there has to be, like, look, if I throw a row of dominoes, and all the dominoes are falling, you know that for the dominoes to fall in the first place, there had to have been something outside the domino to knock it off. There had to have been a cause outside it. You see what I'm saying? That was not part of the domino chain. The same way with the creator, I told you that this universe needs a cause, right? But if you have a cause, and that cause is a cause, and that cause is a cause, assuming this cause is God, and it goes on for infinity, you would never actually get to the final cause who caused this universe, because it's infinite. Yeah. So that means we wouldn't exist. But do we exist?
We do.
But that means we're evidence to the fact that whatever our cause is, was one cause.
Could have been the Big Bang.
Okay, but the big.
I literally have no answer. I can't think of what could have caused the Big Bang.
Okay, but that's what I'm thinking, right? So, because the Big Bang. Look,
give it time. Scientists will prove it.
Okay, but that's the thing. You know why scientists can never prove it? Because it's outside of the natural world.
It's impossible.
Right. But it's conceptually. You see how simple it is. It's like 1 + 1. Look, this is the deductive argument. Everything that begins to exist has a cause. Agreed. Yeah. The universe began to exist. Agreed. So that means the universe had a cause.
Does that mean God doesn't exist then?
Say that again?
In order for God to exist, must he therefore be caused?
No, but I explained to you how God can't be caused. How God is.
But
I said everything that
caused, then he can't possibly.
No, but that's the thing. I said everything that begins to exist has a cause. God never began.
Yeah, he just
exactly, necessarily. And
hard to comprehend. If there's an infinite number of Big Bangs, because people think there's an infinite number of parallel universes,
right.
In one of these universes, there's bound to be life. Because if there's an infinite number, then anything will happen. Okay. Everything can and will happen.
Okay, you have mathematicians, you have scientists, physicists, even for example Richard, Professor Lawrence Krauss, you have Richard Dawkins, all these people, none of them argue to the fact, even Stephen Hawkins, Roger Penrose, they don't dispute the fact that there had to have been an uncaused cause. They just differ over what the nature of the cause is. They say it was a mother universe. You know, they have the theory of the landscape, the multiverse theory called the landscape, right? I know there's many different string theory, M theory, so on and so forth, but one of them that falls into it is the landscape, where they say that there's like a mother universe that kicked it all off. But we're like, when you say mother universe, you're just changing the name. You call it mother universe, I call it God. But we talk about the same thing.
I guess, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I know what you mean.